Kieron.
And we are live. We're live. And this is the first time you would have seen us live on this channel. It's KS1 TV, and it's the Transfer Exchange Show, the review. Today, we don't just have our scouts, our resident scouts. We've got a special guest today, and it's Chris Davison. Give us a round of applause, everyone. There we go. That's as much as you're going to get, Chris. Welcome to the
I can live with that. I'll live with that.
On the top today, and I like to shuffle it about. You know what I mean? Make all the people on this show feel a bit special. To my right or to my left, it's the marksman. It's Jerome Marks. How you doing, Jerome?
You're all good, thanks. Good evening, everyone.
Somehow he's made his way onto the top. It's Simon Sheffield. It's the chef. Welcome, Simon. How you doing?
Evening, everyone.
And down the bottom, it's our resident chief scout. It's Steve K. How you doing, Steve?
Welcome, everybody. I hope you can hear me from down here.
Steve's feeling sorry for himself today. He's not as humble as the man to his right. It's Chris Davison. I'm going to say thank you again for coming on, Chris. Greatly appreciate you giving your time up for today.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, mate. Of course. We're going to start, as we always do, with transfer talk, and it's one that I'm happy to. Well, I was happy when I saw the headline, and it was Arsenal propose 13 million plus Mkhitaryan deal for the Roma winger Justin Kluivert. Mkhitaryan looks like he's on his way to Roma. To the happiness of many Arsenal fans who felt that he was inconsistent, didn't score enough goals, and as for a winger, was just a lot of energy. And it looks like Roma want the deal done. Want to get a deal done. It looks like Mkhitaryan wants to stay at Roma. Reports coming out that there could potentially be a swap deal with Justin Kluivert and Mkhitaryan plus money. What do we think on that one? We'll start with Jerome. What are you saying, Jerome, on that one?
Well, I don't know if it's a swap deal that I would do. In the nicest way possible. I'm happy that it looks like Mkhitaryan's going to go, but is Kluivert someone that we've been going after, or is he someone that's just been offered to us? Because if he's someone that's just been offered to us, a bit like when Mkhitaryan came to us in the swap deal with Sanchez, he wasn't really someone that we were, really interested in. So for me, I think he's still a young player. He's still got a lot to prove. I wouldn't do the swap deal myself. I don't know if any of the what the other boys think, but it's not one for me really.
All right, Chris. What's your thoughts on Justin Kluivert as a player? Do you rate him? Do you think he could do a job at Arsenal?
Well, let's be honest. He's a son of a very good former footballer. You'd like to think, he's got a bit of his father in him. On the footballing side of things, he's probably talented. He's probably learnt a lot from his dad. But like Jerome was saying, if Arsenal weren't already looking at Kluivert, is it actually worth going ahead with it? Just because they might feel persuaded to go ahead with this deal because we're getting a player in exchange for Mkhitaryan as well, doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do as well. Arsenal would have already been looking at their targets, in the wide areas as it is going forward. So I mean, I'd be happy with it. I think we're getting obviously a much younger player than Mkhitaryan, who's obviously got good talent and has room for improvement. And when you think of the players we've already got at the club, Mikel Arteta is the head coach. I'm sure we'd get the very best out of him as well. So it would be an intriguing deal. But it would depend on what the club really think. I'm sure, like I said, they'll already got their targets lined up on the wing positions and stuff like that. So I'd only like the club to go ahead with it if they were 100% certain it was the right thing to do. But in terms of Mkhitaryan going the other way, then that is one thing I am happy about for sure.
Yeah. Simon, would you be happy? Obviously, you'll be happy to see Mkhitaryan go. It's about time. Yeah. But is Kluivert the man that you're to be swapping with, or would you be trying to get money?
No, I want Kluivert because this
You want
lad, I watched him when he was at Ajax, and he was absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
It was being talked about by all the teams in the Premier League. Even Barcelona tried to sign him, but then Patrick Kluivert basically denied the move when his son could have gone. I think at the age of 18, I think he was, and then he stayed at Ajax. He had the best goal to ratio with goals and assists in his age category as well in Europe. I think that year with Ajax, it was absolutely unbelievable. The way when at Roma, it's different for him at Roma because it's not like with Ajax the way that they play football. They don't play football nowhere near what Roma want to play it. So it's like what's his name with Atletico, João Felix. Him trying to settle in at Atletico, it's not worked out. Same as Thomas Lemar, it's not worked out. You take both of those players and put them in the Arsenal team with Arteta and with the way that we play football, and it's night and day. And with Patrick Kluivert, with his son, his son would be absolutely fantastic for Arsenal. And I think under Arteta, he could learn a lot. You've seen how well Raheem Sterling is and how well Leroy Sané has done. And Sané always puts his stuff down to not just Pep Guardiola, but Arteta knew how to get the best out of him.
Yeah.
So I think Justin Kluivert would be fantastic for us.
So you think he's just made the wrong move? Steve, I'm sure you've looked into the deal. Does it have legs? And do you think this would be the right deal, or do you think this is just story? They're putting 2 and 2 together and making 18.
I think it's putting 2 and 2 together and making 18. First, I want to say that I don't think Kluivert Mkhitaryan was such a flop. I think he was given quite a bad deal at Arsenal. I could always see the class in him. He only played 59 games for us, and he scored 9 goals and 13 assists in those. But at the end of the day, this swap deal sounds like the type of swap deal on how we got Mkhitaryan in the first place, that they're just giving us Kluivert. And I've looked into it, and it does sound like they're just trying to get rid of Kluivert to me. I would think the better swap deal, we spoke about it before on the show, would be with Chris Smalling, who said that he wants to come back to the Premiership. I just believe he's better than many of our central defenders. If anything, that would be a better spot for me. But he's only scored 7 goals. This season, Kluivert. There's nothing majorly fantastic about him. It just seems to me it smells of we'll give you him, to keep Mkhitaryan because we want Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, I looked into the deal as well. It does seem like that, but you can't deny that Justin Kluivert was a talent before he went to Roma. And if you asked me before he went to Roma if I'd take Justin Kluivert, I would have definitely said yes. And we've had in the past, we've got previous with players that have made the wrong move. We've brought them back, and they've done bits for us. In fact, we'd class them as legends in our team. So I wouldn't write off Justin Kluivert as a player. But as Chris and Jerome alluded to, if Justin Kluivert wasn't the player that you wanted in the first place, then don't take him, because you're just essentially doing exactly what you did with the Mkhitaryan deal, and look how that panned out. Because Mkhitaryan just wasn't the right player for us.
Yeah.
So.
Also, one more thing on that. If you were Roma and you've got a very promising youngster on your hands, would you swap him for someone that's probably only got 2, maybe 3 seasons left in the game? Probably wouldn't, would you?
It's a fair point.
Why do they want to swap him? Why are they offering you him? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's our job, to dig a bit deeper and I'll see why. Hey, that's what we're here for. All right, and the next story is one player that I looked at that I can't lie, I was pretty impressed with him. I'm one of them fans that loves to watch the entertaining footballers. There's some people that like a bit of grit. I like that flary geezer that tries to twist someone up and take them on 5 times and score a screamer. And this is what I see in this Rafa Silva. Very exciting player. He's of a good age. You're buying him in his peak years. 27 years old. Steve, I know you had a good look into him. What did you think of Rafa Silva?
Yeah, I found the whole game and watched him play against Lisbon, and this guy's quality. He's going to cost a lot of money. That's for sure. But he has got everything that we would want at Arsenal. He's got pace to match, like Usain Bolt. His strength on the ball and in the tackle. His finishing is pinpoint. And more importantly, he just come across that he was Premiership ready. That this guy could just pick him up, put him in the Arsenal side, and then go. And not only that, he's got the beard and the hair to match Irving Comment. So he's got that. So with all that, he's seriously, but all seriousness, is a fantastic talent, and it's just the money. It's just the money that they would repay the money. But a great talent.
Yeah. Chris, are you surprised that we're being linked with quite a few wingers?
Yes and no. I think when we brought Pepe in last summer, a huge amount of money, and that was obviously we'd lost Alex Iwobi as well, so we sort of always needed to get another wide player in. But I think what we've got to remember at the moment is that we've still got Reece Nelson, we've still got Saka as well. I think if we were to get another winger in or not, I think a lot of that will depend on what happens at our left back situation, because obviously Saka's been used as a wing back, left back, etc., whilst Tierney and Kolasinac were unavailable. If we were to get another left back in the summer, then maybe we can push Saka a bit more forward, and I think a front three of Saka, Aubameyang and Pepe would be very, very strong. So I mean, a lot of that will depend on other positions, etc. In terms of Rafa Silva himself, I've managed to get a glimpse of him once or twice in the Champions League and in Europa League. He's won a lot in Portugal. He's experienced, and when you've got a few young attackers like Saka, like Nelson, and like Pepe as well, really, it's good to have that a bit more of experience there as well, and it gives us a lot more depth. So he's certainly a player I'm intrigued by. He's certainly a player that I think would do well in the Premier League. I think he's made 15 league appearances, 5 goals, 3 assists. I mean, it's not spectacular, but again, he's one of those players that can make a difference. If we really needed a boost during a game. So I'm intrigued to see why we're getting linked with so many midfield wide players as well, wingers. Because we've got quite a bit of talent in those areas already. I suppose it depends, what happens with Lacazette, Aubameyang as well. Aubameyang prefers to play as a striker rather than out wide. We know that, he said it himself, and I think that's where we get the best out of him. So if we get a decent sum come in or a decent fee come in for Lacazette, and we can move him on in order to push Aubameyang more, as a more of a central forward, then we can have Pepe out on one side and then someone else on the left. So we've got some good youngsters that we must use already in the likes of Saka, Martinelli as well. How can I forget about him? He's been absolutely fantastic for us this season. A breath of fresh air, and this campaign was a real tough one, one of the worst in a long, long time. I'm sure we all agree on that. But Martinelli was just a breath of fresh air, and I think he could easily be our next sort of big talent and the next big Premier League talent, to be honest with you. And I'd be more than happy to have him on the left, Pepe on the right, and Aubameyang up front. I think we don't need to go out and splash a load of money on a winger. We've done that with Pepe last summer, and now we've got some really exciting youngsters at the club too. So in my opinion, there's plenty more positions that we should focus on rather than looking at wingers.
Simon, would you put this link to wingers down to something maybe they're thinking of maybe another tactical idea. Maybe they could see Lacazette leaving, and they want to sort of bring in more of a winger, and Martinelli's an option up front, and you've got Aubameyang as a centre forward as opposed to on the wing. So maybe they're thinking out the box. What do you think on that? Maybe.
Well, I think this Rafa Silva, Portuguese. I think it's just rumours, to be honest. I don't think we are actually really concrete linked with him, because I think Arteta knows exactly where he needs to strengthen. He needs to get a centre back next to Saliba, and then he needs to see if Bellerin can still do it. Because if he can't, he'll have to get somebody else. And what he wants a versatile number 10, and he wants someone to sit next to Granit Xhaka, because he rates Granit Xhaka a lot. I mean, I don't see it, but he's the manager. He's the one that's been paid all this money to make these decisions. So if he says he really likes Granit Xhaka and he wants to keep him, and he wants to build a team around him, then he's looking at a number 10, he's looking at a box-to-box, another centre-back, and I think a right-back is looking at. I think for left side, I won't be surprised with Willian coming in, for free. I won't be, because we need someone on that left side that's a natural left winger and that can take the pressure off Saka, because we can't play Saka every single week because he's only a young kid, you're going to burn him out. And we're playing Martinelli there. Martinelli is prolific as a striker for me. Him and Aubameyang are two best strikers, in my opinion, if you get rid of Lacazette. But then with Lacazette, I can see him going, and this links with Thomas Lemar. Well, Thomas Lemar fits the bill for that left side as well. So Thomas Lemar and Saka on that side, and you've got Pepe, and you've got Reece Nelson on that right. And I still put Reece Nelson higher than Jadon Sancho. I know I've already said it, but I do. I still put him on that level. He's just not been given that opportunity yet.
The thing is, we can all think that him and she and he's better than him, but Jadon Sancho's got the stats, he's got the games under his belt. So
that's it. He's got the time to show it.
Work with Reece Nelson at the moment. There's a player in him because he done well at Hoffenheim in the start of the first half of the season. And when he does play, you can see something. It's just he needs game time. That's the big one. He needs games to see what he can do and to become a better player. Otherwise he just becomes stagnant, and it'd be no good for either. Jerome, what did you think of the Rafa Silva potential?
I don't think it will happen because of the money, but up until very recently, I'll be honest, I've never heard of him. And I was surprised when I looked. He's a 27-year-old Portugal international. Never heard of him. Looking at him, though, he looks like a really classy player. Great close control, very dynamic, can weave in and out of players. He had one unbelievable season where he scored, I think, 17 goals. And the other years he scored maybe 2, 3 and 5. But I think he spent his whole career in the Portuguese league. So I guess the big question is, could he do it in like one of the major leagues? But yeah, he looks an excellent player.
Yeah, he does look tidy, doesn't he? Yeah. He does look tidy. With regards to the winger situation, it's clear Arteta's come into the team and he's seen we've got a certain type of squad. It's probably more an Emery type of squad, which has players who are more of an athletic type of stature. What he's citing is there's not enough creativity in the team, not enough flair in the team. And if you do look at the wingers that we seem to be linked with, they're of that ilk. Rafa Silva, even down to players like William, they've got more flair on par with the Pepes, and I think that's what he wants. He wants a bit more of that in the squad because we've got a lot of runners. So it doesn't surprise me that we're going for wingers, and I'm basing that on the fact that I feel like Lacazette maybe potentially going and they're looking for a different option. So do I think there's going to be wingers coming in? I think we're going to have wingers coming in. Possibly not the names that are going out at the moment, but it might be one of the cheaper names, maybe a free. I think Williams. We heard Williams potentially on his way to Tottenham. The Jose Mourinho link. Richard Keys turning around and saying that he's Jose's man already. So it looks like Williams off to there. I don't think Ryan Fraser's the man for us. I think they're not too sure on his quality and consistency. So I don't think there's going to be a deal with the Ryan Fraser one. But like I said, George Lewis, who's been linked with, he's already been on trial with Arsenal. A flary winger, very raw, and I think we'll be going down that side of things really. Just my opinion. But yeah, I do think we will be seeing a winger at Arsenal. This one may please quite a few people. Let me change it to the clicker. He's been labelled the next Kante. Now, I think it's lazy because he's taller than Kante. Just because he's bald, it doesn't mean he's Kante. He loves to tackle. He loves to get involved. And I'm actually well excited about the prospect of this geezer. I'm not saying Arsenal are going to buy him, but I'd just like to watch this guy playing at a higher level than he currently is. Steve, go on. We'll start with you. What are you saying on Ibrahim Diallo?
I'm laughing at listening to you because we had a little conversation, didn't we, before that I wanted to leave a certain thing to a certain player that reminds me of a certain player, Arsenal legend. This kid excites me no end. If this kid comes to Arsenal, I would be jumping through hoops. I know he plays for Brest, and that's the only thing I'm thinking of with the league. This Simon was just saying about the box-to-box midfield player we need. This is the box-to-box midfield player we need. This, and exactly what you said about being likened to Kante. I didn't like him to Kante, not at all. But I did like him to Patrick Vieira when I first see him play for Arsenal.
The poison chalice.
Yeah. And I'm good at, and as you know, I'm very thinking when I say things about someone. Watching him, he's got that leggy. He's tall. He's got long legs. He gets their tackles in. He powers through the midfield like there's no one there, just like Vieira does. He's the closest fit. The mannerisms, even the way he walks down the pitch, are just like, wow. You know, it's quite scary and exciting if he ever came to Arsenal. But I really hope this player comes to Arsenal. I don't know how much he would cost.
They're saying in the region of about 20 mil.
Yeah, buy him.
Buy him.
Steve and Jerome are going around with a collection. Ibrahima Diallo fund.
But he seriously likened me to Patrick Vieira. So when for years and years, when you see someone who actually likens to one of the legends, that's when you get excited. And he did do that.
Yeah, I fully hear that. Jerome, I know you was excited about him. Go on, have a few words.
I've got his name on the back of my jumper here. You know what? He's not the tallest. He's not the tallest, but he seems to win every tackle he goes for. He's so strong. Yeah. Someone his size, he's so strong. His game would suit the Premier League down to the ground. The way he plays, he's very athletic, and we haven't really had someone athletic in the central midfield for donkey's years. You think of, we've got now Torreira, Xhaka, even Ceballos. There's not like a lot of athleticism there, and with this guy, that's like a major part of his game. Like I said, we got no one else like him. Yeah, I'd love to have him at our club. I think he'd be brilliant. Him next to another top draw centre midfielder, and it'd make a massive difference to our team.
Yeah. Chris, do you think Diallo would be a good addition to that as a box-to-box midfielder at Arsenal?
Well, I've got to be honest, I don't know an awful lot about this kid, but just hearing what some of you guys were saying then, and I've been saying it for a long time as well, we haven't had that sort of powerhouse box-to-box midfielder, strong, a good dribbler, etc. Ever since Patrick Vieira, like Steve said, and I really thought we would get in somewhere when we got Torreira in, and I do think overall he's a very good player in his position. He loves to get stuck in. He's got a lot of energy in that central defensive area of midfield, and I do think he's a very good player, but I still think we need a sort of a Wilfred Ndidi, a Decore, someone, your N'Golo Kante, etc., that puts himself about all game, works our absolute socks off, can drive forward if needs be, but can always get back, etc. I did read up on Diallo a little bit earlier, and one of the things is that he's strong, he's a good dribbler, very good energy rate, work rate, etc. Just to have that more protection in front of the back line is something we've missed for a very long time. People go on about Xhaka. I just don't think that's his responsibility in terms of the type of player he is. I just think he's better going forward than he is defensively. The only real defensive sort of midfielder or defensive minded midfielder we have got is literally Lucas Torreira, and we can't always rely on him, and the defence will need more protection at times. So I think if we can get a type of player like Diallo in, or your Ndidi, stuff like that, then it would be a good buy, in my opinion. Obviously, there's speculation about Torreira's future as it is already, so we'll have to see what happens with that in the summer. I personally, hope he stays because I rate him, but again, we do need some more defensive-minded players in midfield, in my opinion. So, he's young. He's France under-20 international. There'll always be room for improvement for these young players. But also what you tend to get with the younger players, like we've seen from the likes of Saka and Martinelli, who are already at the club, etc., they're hungry. They're hungry to improve. They give their all every single game. So it would be an exciting deal. I mean, I think we were linked with one of the younger French midfielders who's just signed for Watford. But we didn't. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Obviously, that's still apparently up in the air because apparently Watford were happy to go ahead with it and stuff. Yet it wasn't actually 110% over the line. So I don't know what's happening with that. But I think the fact that we were interested in him maybe tells us, we are looking at a defensive midfielder, a young talent that could really boost us in that area. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Simon, how well would a matchup of Thomas Partey
here we go.
and Diallo be in that central midfield? Because I know that's all you was thinking. The whole time we were speaking, all you was thinking was Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey. You was just seeing Thomas Partey come out of my mouth as I was saying Diallo and Thomas Partey. That's all you heard. How good would that be?
Well, like Jerome said earlier, I actually didn't know nothing about this person. But that's the best thing about this show. We give you names that you've never even heard of. Sorry.
I'll give you homework on a Tuesday. I'm like, boys, research these players.
Trust me, he gives us homework. But basically, I watched him, and I know Steve says Patrick Vieira, and I can get where you're coming from, but I didn't see Patrick Vieira in him. I saw Gilberto Silva in him, in the way he powers forward, the way he does his job, gets back in position, protects the person next to him. That's what Gilberto did for so many years, like the unsung hero. Gilberto was the one that was like, everyone thought that everything was Vieira. When you took Gilberto away, and left Vieira there on his own, he looked lost in some games. That's how good Gilberto Silva was. And when you look at this kid, and obviously French and all that, but when you look at him, like, your Pogba and you got all your flair and stuff like that, he don't care about that. He just wants to get stuck in, get the ball, pass it to the next person. He's done his job. Then he gets back. Then when it comes to defending, he's not brilliant as everyone else is for defending, but for his lad that his age is, for a 20-year-old, he's well switched on and he's a very good reader of the game as well. So maybe Arteta likes someone like that. But I think that's the thing with Thomas Partey, is a good reader of the game in midfield, and that's what Arteta likes. That's what we lack in midfield.
I think with this guy, Steve, don't be worried. although he plays for Brest, he's got previous. Yeah, he came through the ranks at Monaco, so he's a player, and Monaco's one of the best youth ranks in Europe. He's had good education, should I say? The reason why I think the Kante tag is lazy, because I think this guy has got flair. The one reason why I'm excited about him is because he's got that defensive midfield grit, but he's also got that little bit of flair in him, which could get him out of situations, which gives him that extra bit of something special when he is moving up the pitch. Because you want your box-to-box midfielders to have that little bit of something extra. Otherwise, I feel like you're potentially getting in someone like Guendouzi. I feel Guendouzi's a very good player, very good energy. But when it comes to that final bit, I feel like he's missing on that. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to grow. He's only a young player. But I also think that that's a natural thing, the flair. That you've got that naturally in you, and you hone that in. I don't think Guendouzi's got that, but this guy he's got that. He just needs to work on his finishing. As I said, a very good player would come at 20 million, and I think that was probably 20 million pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, I think the prices will be a bit different, especially when you're talking about clubs like Brest. So we are going to look into this one. This one will not go away. We will be continuing to dig deep once we speak to our French experts. The last one of the transfer talk. Yes, it's another winger. We're going to go for the clicker. Go on. It's another winger. You might have seen him this weekend. His name is Moussa Diaby. It's not Abu Diaby, but it's as close as we can get, because we're still hurting over the fact that we didn't get to see one of the most genius of players that Arsenal have had in years come to fruition. Now we are pining after anyone with a D in their surname, and right now it's Moussa Diaby of Leverkusen. I'm throwing this out there. He reminds me of Sadio Mane. He reminds me of Sadio Mane. Simon, you're talking first. You can go. Go on.
Yeah, I like it. I liked when he played at weekend as well. Him and Havertz, that connection that they had, I really like that. And then I've also looked with some of his goals and assists and stuff like that. And he's not a greedy player either. He's not a greedy player. If he knows he can have a shot on goal, he don't actually have the shot. He looks up and he picks out somebody else for them to have the glory, rather than him doing it for himself. And I used to like that, because that's what Thierry Henry used to do as well. Not selfish. So I think the way that he controls that, it controls the touchline as well. He's not scared of taking someone on. He'll just ping it through your legs and he's gone. Or his pace, I think he's quite quick as well, really quick. I think I'd actually say he's quicker than Mane. Mane is quick, but he is really quick. And a lot of teams now that have noticed this kid since this behind the scenes, they've noticed him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll save my bit to the end. I know Steve wants to say something. We'll leave you to the end, Steve. I know you're twitching. Well, I'm going to leave you to the end now, because I know what you're going to say. Jerome, go on. I know you like the look of this player.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the chef. I when I was watching him, he reminded me. Now you say Mane, I can see that. Yeah, he does look like him. He also reminds me a little bit of Saka as well.
Very direct.
The way he plays. Yeah, like the chef said, he's fantastic when he's in front of goal. He's excellent at just laying the ball off to someone that's in a better position. I think he has mastered the cutback. Get to the byline.
Cutback.
Yeah, he's mastered it. Doesn't panic and just cuts it back. Great body movement. He's rapid. He sprints away from players. He always, a lot of the time, he looks like he's about to lose his balance or lose the ball, but then he manages to sort of keep it. Yeah. My not concern, but I think he is very similar to Saka, so I don't know if we would go for someone like him, considering we're trying to obviously tie Saka up to a long-term deal. But yeah, superb player.
Steve. everyone out there is probably pining for a bit of Moussa Diaby, yeah? Break their hearts now.
Well, everything about the player is true. He's you can't help but being excited by watching him. He's got pace to burn. He runs like players like they wasn't there. And as you know, Kieron, I've spoken to our German expert, and this kid is the next biggest thing that's coming out of Germany. And you can guarantee that 100% with a bit of information. Dortmund are after him. I've been told he's got no intentions of leaving Germany at the minute. And the only link that we've got to come into Arsenal is from Liten Sport, which is not a very reputable source when it comes to links of players coming to the Premiership. But who knows? I see him play against Leverkusen against Bremer on Monday, I think what it was. 2 assists. Was absolutely outstanding. But as I say, I'm going to break your heart and been told by my German expert that we've got no chance.
Steve, if he doesn't want to leave Germany, we're going to have to move the Emirates to Berlin. That's
not a bad one, you know. To be fair,
that's not bad. It's not bad.
Just to the end of the season, then we'll move it back again afterwards.
I think with this one again, as has been said many times, it's very similar style to Saka. The other ones we've been linked with, they're of very flary. They're very tricky, which is different to what Saka is. And added to the fact, Steve says no rush to move away from Germany. And if you actually look a bit deeper and read quotes from him saying, he said when he does leave, he wants to go back to PSG and sort of prove himself there. He's a young 20-year-old, moved for around, I think it was about 10 million. So he's got pedigree. He had, I think, he played 26 games for PSG a couple of seasons ago, or last season, and so he's not looking to go anywhere near the Premier League, anywhere near Arsenal. And if he's going to leave, it's going to go back to PSG. So everyone who thought was going for Moussa Diaby, in my eyes, it's a no-go.
Well, that's that.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry about that.
We are now going to move on to this one. Arsene Wenger speaks again. And when he speaks, I listen. I listen because I respect my elders. He's the king. And he will always be the king. Arsene Wenger is calling for the January transfer window to be binned again. I swear in the last 5 years that he was with Arsenal, every January transfer window, he pretty much just said, it needs to go. Because he knew that people would be after his players that didn't want to be there, wanted to think that this is their way out, and agents will be on his case saying, buy my player, and fans will be like, why are you not taking him? Chris, what do you say on the January transfer window being binned?
For me, it's a difficult one because, I don't think it can be scrapped altogether because, as we've seen with Arsenal before, especially this January, there will be times where you've been, or your club has been very unfortunate with injuries. And, I think I can sort of see where Arsene's coming from because, when you have the summer transfer window, that's the bigger transfer window. That's where, the more money's spent and more players are available, etc. And then when you come sort of halfway through the season and you get to January, some clubs just want to spend for the sake of it and get certain deals over the line. But I think it can unsettle the squad sometimes if you bring more players in halfway through the season, and it will take them time to adjust. Some players might be, sort of unhappy with it as well because it might unsettle the squad, etc. I wouldn't mind if it was scrapped to a certain extent, but certainly I think maybe if the Premier League introduced a way where if clubs had a certain situation where they were had lots of injuries and they needed to get cover in, etc., then they should be allowed. Obviously we were unfortunate with Hector Bellerin getting injured for a long time, and we were relying on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, which wasn't ideal for the player or for us really, because we both know that isn't his ideal situation. We got Cedric in, quite ironically, as he was injured, and he hasn't even played a game for us yet. Pablo Mari, we obviously had a few injuries at centre-back as well with Callum. That was really unfortunate. So those deals, well, certainly the Marie one, helped us out to a certain extent. So, I think if clubs are struggling with injuries and they're low on numbers and they need some cover from somewhere, then they should be allowed. But, in terms of the teams just spending, willy-nilly for the sake of it in January when they've just had the summer transfer window to do all that as well. I just think it will unsettle the squad. It can unsettle certain individuals within the team, and it will take the time for the player who's coming to gel into the squad, and that's halfway through the season, which isn't ideal. So certainly I can see where Arsenal's coming from. It should be used for cover options only, and emergency loans and signings, etc. And maybe for pre-contract deals as well. So, say Arsenal were interested in signing a player for the summer, and we could get a deal done in January, then that's fine. But we'll have to wait and see. Wenger's got a bit more power now, and a bit more influence. We'll have to wait and see what he can do.
Steve, what are you saying on the January transfer window? Are you a fan, or are you a foe?
Well, some of our best players have come in the January transfer window. We were talking about it last week. We run about 10 off.
Yeah.
So it ain't done us too bad over the time it's been going. Wenger's reason for wanting to close it. He says that managers don't deal with it well. I don't know how he knows this. And he also seems to think that because the January window, is coming, players stop playing for you. Well, again, I don't see how he knows that unless he's going by Arsenal players, because he can't be taking that from anything but that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that players stop playing for you. As far as it, whether each time, sometimes you're going to want the January transfer window. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to have injuries and need to buy. Sometimes you ain't. I think you've just got to take it, that it's there. And, sometimes you're going to need it to basically possibly save yourself from relegation, challenge for Champions League. So I think it's got to stay for now, unless they come up with some, very good, like Chris was saying, something where there's a certain amount of money allowed to be spent. But I can't see that. Happening.
Jerome, what are you saying? Is it? Are you liking the January transfer window? Do you think it's a distraction?
I think for the fans, it's an exciting time, and for the teams, I think it depends on your situation, where you are in the league and your position. If your team flying high, all your players are happy, then the January transfer window is great, because you can add to that and you're not really at risk of losing anyone. Whereas if you're in a more vulnerable position and you've got players that are unhappy and unsettled, then in January that could see you lose a player that you don't want to. It's a real tricky one. I can see both sides from it. I think there's been so many changes recently with like your VAR and other things. I think just leave it for the time being. I don't think it's a major problem in the game, so I wouldn't change it for the moment.
Simon, how much do you put down the fact that people are doing their business in January because they didn't do their business in the summer? Or is this poor planning from the clubs, or is the January transfer window actually needed for situations, as they've said earlier, where you need to bring in a player or it needs to be an emergency?
Well, no, it is. If we miss out on party in summer, we're going in January. But no, we're joking. When you look at lower league teams, right, they'll never scrap the January transfer window. They can't, because if you watch, like, Sunderland Till I Die, you watch that. They were struggling for relegation. They went and got rid of their best goalkeeper and their best midfielder and brought in a striker. That striker scored the goals that kept them just in League One at most. And then it's like, you look at Birmingham, they did the exact same thing. They brought a striker and a midfielder in, but lost their most expensive player to a Premier League team. I think it was Everton at the point. And they ended up going up. They ended up basically not going up, sorry. They ended up going into playoffs. And that's because of that connection between those two players. So when you look at January transfer window, you can look at City, United, and 55 million on this player, and it's like, no point, it's January. What I would do, I would scrap it from the Premier League from 1st to 10th. And underneath 10th to the bottom, I'd leave it open for you. Because in relegation, they need it more.
You can't do that, because
I'll give Wenger ideas.
But what if, God forbid, Arsenal were in 11th spot, and then because they were allowed to bring in an extra player, they've propelled themselves from 11th spot at Christmas to 4th in the league. Uproar, absolute carnage. Like,
same as if you get rid of it. Same as if you scrap it. Yeah. Same as if you scrap it, there's going to be carnage, because other teams are going to look at it and go, well, instead of them using it, why can't we just use it in the Championship?
But this is what I go back onto. Are you not doing your business properly in the summer? Like, I can understand emergency deals, and I think emergency deals should be allowed. Fine. I think this January transfer window, I'm in the middle. I think I'm in the middle with everyone else. It's one of them ones. You don't necessarily need it, because you're not seeing massive deals done in January. Yes, you can cite the fact that we've bought some of our better players, Aubameyang, in January transfer window, but it's because we didn't do our business in the summer.
Yeah, that's it.
So this is what I'm saying. How much of it is you're not doing business in the summer, or you've just been unlucky and you need an emergency player? Now,
well, that's it. You've just been an idiot in summer, basically, waiting, and then it's not happened. So then you've gone, right, well, we'll try again in January.
I think if you get rid of the January transfer window, it makes everyone more sort of alert. It makes everyone sort of do business better in the summer. And if you leave down the January, what would be the January transfer window, to bring in only emergency players, only emergency strikers, only emergency goalkeepers, whatever, then I think you're covering yourself for anyone that's sort of in desperate need of a player, because they've been hit by injuries. I don't know. It's one of them ones that Wenger's been going on for years about. It's a tough one. It is really a tough one. Other comments that he spoke about was players' wages, especially with the COVID-19 situation right now. I know that players' wages and agents' fees has been a problem in the game for a while, and the wages didn't seem like they were ever going to stop going up until this pandemic has hit and football realises that it's not immune from any sort of money issues. With clubs like Barcelona, their wage bill is currently, was at about 63%. With the lack of football on TV, there's no fans, there's no revenue, there's no income. It's now about 80%, and will continue growing the longer and longer they're out of the game, which is why you're seeing prices for Umtiti, which started off at around 40 million, now going down to reported 27 million. And it's going to continue.
Dembele.
What do we do when it comes to players' wages? Is that a real problem in the game? Where do we go from here with regards to the COVID-19 situation really absolutely ripping clubs apart? They've taken wage deductions, but only to be paid later on. Don't think their agents are going to let them get away with not getting this money back. Where do we go with football? Do the wages continue to rise? Jerome.
I don't think you can start capping it or say you have to put you can only put a certain percentage of your revenue into the salaries. It's supply and demand, isn't it? And I think you get into very messy, dicey territory when you start telling people how much they can pay players. So I personally wouldn't cap it, but I can see the other side. I can see the other side of the argument.
I think what it is, he's trying to protect. The comments come from trying to protect teams in the long run.
It's up to the clubs to protect themselves. They've got enough clever financial people working there. It's up to them to make the decisions. And I know you can't plan for something like the current situation, but the clubs have got enough people working there to make these decisions. So no, I wouldn't cap it.
Chris, are you would you cap wages? I don't think it's the cap wages. I think it's more of I think what he's saying is the club can manage their own wages, but it should only be capped at 50%.
Yeah, you're telling the clubs what they can spend.
Yes.
I don't agree.
You're not on that.
The clubs need to make their own.
You can't do that.
Yeah. So Chris, where would you see on this capping?
It's a very tricky one, isn't it? As Jerome was saying, it's a tricky situation. Is every single player in the footballing world going to accept having their wages reducted and stuff like that, reduced? No, unfortunately not. I mean, it would be the most ideal situation. It would be nice and simple if all the footballers would be like, right, okay, we'll take a wage cut, etc. But that's just not going to happen. And as we all know, I'm sure there are some greedy people out there. Look. There's been this whole discussion about football fees, with transfers, with agents and add-ons on contracts and stuff. There's been this whole topic about this for a long, long time. And over the last few years, I'm sure you guys will agree, and you've seen it yourselves, the prices have gone up dramatically, whether it's wages for certain individuals or transfer fees alone, or you look at your Mbappe's, your Neymar's and stuff like your Paul Pogba to Manchester United, just ridiculous amounts of money. And then what people tend to forget is that there'll be even more money involved behind the scenes for the agent and for add-ons on the player's contract and stuff. Like I said, a cap where the players only get a certain amount would be fantastic, and I think it would help all parties out. But it's just so much of a tricky situation for those individuals involved, and there'll be lots of disagreements as well with that. I've thought about this pre-pandemic, and I've always believed it, but certainly during the whole coronavirus pandemic, one thing that I think all of us has realised is that how on earth are footballers getting more money than our doctors and nurses, our public services? It's just wrong altogether, and I've believed that for a long time. We should come out of this situation and be like, well, hang on a minute, it's just plain wrong. It just is. Footballers at the end of the day, they've got a job to do, then I accept that. They keep themselves fit, they're good at what they do. I wish I could do some of the things that I see Ronaldo and Messi do every week, and they are special players. There's no doubt about that. But the millions of pounds of money they get every week, every month and every year, it's just when you compare it to everything that's going on at the minute, it's just wrong in my eyes. But probably that's not going to change even after this is all passed. So that's just one of those things, isn't it? There'll always be a lot of money involved in football, and that I think the money side of things in football is only going to get bigger and bigger. In terms of where football clubs stand after the coronavirus pandemic has sort of passed a little bit, there's still so much uncertainties. I feel sorry for the smaller clubs and the smaller and the lower leagues, because they will struggle, unfortunately, and that's very sad. But we, for example, we're going on about transfers and there's a lot of money. It's all fair and well, but we don't know how that's going to pan out, do we? There's going to be there is going to be a new normal, and that's what football clubs are going to have to look at in the long run, because without a doubt, we see it happen to businesses and companies going bust, and unfortunately that's happened already. The economy during this crisis has taken a massive hit, and that will massively affect football clubs as well, especially in the worst hit countries such as the UK. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we saw the Arsenal players take a small wage reduction anyway, and at the end of the day, that's something. It's a positive thing. It's better than sitting there doing nothing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the long run. But for sure, there's going to be a new normal for football clubs in terms of how they work financially, and in terms of the whole transfer market as well. So there's still a lot of things to be cleared up, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah, Steve, I think one of the problems that you get in with a lot of money that's being passed around in football is the agents. They're not regulated anymore. They stopped that in 2015, and since then you thought it was bad before. You're now coming along with people who they come with an agent, and they've now got an entourage, and their entourage has got an entourage, and for every email that's sent, you're getting charged an extra 20 grand. This seems to be the problem. Regulating that will then sort of curb some of that money going out of into the wrong hands.
It could regulate it, and it could stop it. But I'm one of these cynical people who just thinks that agents will get around it somehow. Whether they've got a license or not a license, which is what Arsenal's trying to make happen. I mean, the reason why that Arsenal has said that he wants agents to be licensed is because that when he was used to be doing a deal for a player, he was never happy with how much the agent got, through the deal. But it was funny because his next sentence said it was, "But I was happy if I got more." So I was thinking, hold on a minute. There's something a bit. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
I just feel, yes, you can bring back licenses, but I just cynical, or it's just where I'm from. They would get round it somehow when the player and the agent will sit down afterwards, and they will sort out whatever they want to sort out. And so that's the way that's the way I look at it. But Arsene Wenger, he can't have it both ways.
No, but Arsene Wenger wants it both ways, and that was always he wants his cake and he wants to eat it. And in my eyes, he can, and he should be able to eat it, whatever cake he wants. We're on transfers, but as we've said many times, with this current pandemic, as our good friend James Rowe has said many a time, this is a time when you should probably look within your own ranks at some players you've got before you go out and start buying, because maybe you haven't looked at that player enough, and maybe if you just run the rule over again, you might just find a gem within your team already. Today's Arsenal Youth Watch is on Tyrese John Jules. The striker has had a few games, a few friendly games. He's had a couple of appearances in the cup. Has he got what it takes to be coming through at Arsenal? I feel like he's at that age where if he has, he should be sort of getting a bit of time. What are people saying about the name Tyrese John Jules? We'll start with you, Simon.
I think he's ready. I think he's definitely ready. He's very, very, very good player. Really good. Knows exactly where net is. Strong, powerful, excellent dribbler. There's also someone that knows a lot about him as well. That I've asked about and get information from, and that's Gonna Talk, Psycho Mank, who rates him a lot, has watched him live as well, and says how it's a crime, how he's nowhere near the starting 11. That's how much he rates him. I think if we didn't have Martinelli and you didn't have Eddie Nketiah, and say if it were just Lacazette and Aubameyang and that's it, I think you could easily put him up there and put him in the squad, basically. And I think he'd take to Premier League like a duck to water as well, because he's killing it. He's killing it at youth level. He's gone to Lincoln. I think he scored, did he score 5 goals and 3 assists at Lincoln before he got his injury or something like that? He was doing brilliant there as well. They wanted to sign him on a permanent deal after he got his injury, and then he came back to Arsenal, I think, for rehab or something like that. But very, very good youth player in our system.
Jerome, do you think what he's got, what he's taken, and why don't you think he's come through if he has?
I might have to disagree with the chef on this one.
That's what I like to hear.
Remember, you're disagreeing with Psycho Man.
A bit of controversy in here.
Yeah, I know.
Plain sailing. That's boring. Come on, what are you doing with it?
Save it for the debate.
On the positive side, I think he's a good finisher, and his hold up play and link play is good. If you're going to be a striker at Arsenal, I've got really high expectations of this particular position at Arsenal. And I know he's got a good reputation, but when I'm looking at strikers of sort of the younger level, you're looking at someone like a Martinelli, and I think he's miles away from someone like Martinelli. And Martinelli at the moment for us is playing on the left wing, and I think he should be playing up front. But I don't know. I think he's made 7 appearances for Lincoln. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. I wouldn't say he's ready. Throw him in the first team now. I think that'd be asking way too much of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to.
No. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. I'm sure if John Jules is watching, he's not going to take it to heart. This is only an opinion, John Jules. We're not saying you're not a good player. Or Jerome's not saying you're not a good player. We're not slating anyone. We're just talking about whether you think he's ready to go into the Arsenal first team right now. Chris, I know you are one of the biggest fans out there, and I know you must know about John Jules. Do you think he's ready? And if not, what level do you think he's ready to play at?
Well, I can only apologise, Simon, but I'll have to go with Jerome here as well. Purely because look, I think he's got a lot of potential. He's a good young talented player. But my main concern is that he's not had a look in already. And whether Aubameyang goes or Lacazette goes and we keep one of them, he's behind the pecking order, isn't he? He's going to be behind them. He's going to be behind Nketiah. He's going to be behind Martinelli, who I all think are levels ahead of him. So he's got to do something really special in order to get into the first team. What level do I think he's at the minute? It's tough to say because he's struggled with injuries now and again. But when he's fit and when he's playing, especially in the academy, he is a talented player. I think maybe League One where he's at now or something like that. To start off in the lower leagues and to get some more game time to grow as a player, I think will do him the world of good. Because let's face it, at the moment, with the current situation that we have at Arsenal and the current players we have in his position, I just can't see him getting in. And the last thing we want is for his development to slow down because, he can't get into the first team. So we can either keep him in the academy and keep him playing in that for now, but I think he's capable of more than that. I think, before he got injured at Lincoln, he was doing really well. And, to me, that shows me that he's capable of playing at that level. So maybe another loan will do him some good, but we'll have to wait and see. I just don't think, especially with the likes of Nketiah and Martinelli, who are still young and have got a lot of their future ahead of them, and they're still in their early sort of career days at Arsenal. He's not going to overtake them anytime soon, in my opinion. So a player to keep an eye on, his development, because like I said, I've got no doubt about it. He's got good potential and he's a talent. But my only concern is, he's behind in the pecking order at the minute and he needs game time. And will he get that at the first team? I really don't know.
Yeah. Steve, what do you reckon? John Jules, anywhere near it? Is he the answer? Will he be knocking on the door?
Is it going to be Desmond or 3-1?
Yeah.
You've got to ask yourself.
Go on.
I don't fancy him at all.
Yeah.
I don't. He's not mobile enough for me. He seems very clonky going around the pitch. He's not played for the Arsenal first team yet, which obviously tells you that people at Arsenal literally don't think he's ready. Arteta's came straight in after a week. He's sent him out to Lincoln, which he obviously feels that he's not ready, and he wants to see at what level he is. He's done well for the England youth. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. He scored 11 goals in 24 appearances, so I'll give him that. But as far as Arsenal's concerned at the moment, watching him play for Arsenal, nah. As Chris said, there's a lot more players in front of him, that you would put and rather play than Tyrese at the moment. But I hope he does come through. But at the moment, nah, not for me. I'm afraid, Tyrese.
Yeah, it's one of them things. As you've all said, you got to remember he's behind the pecking order of two guys who are pretty much the same age as him. Eddie Nketiah is like a year older. Martinelli is the same age, and even beyond that, with the noises around Arsenal is that Florian Balogun's going to be coming through, even ahead of Tyrese. John Jules. I mean, we're not to say that he's not going to be a good player, because some players are late bloomers. But I don't think we should sit there and worry about us having another Marlon issue where he goes on and then does it at another club, because maybe it was that move that propelled him to raise his level. Maybe it was that move that gave him that bit of extra freedom where he could sort of age, mature and progress as a player, which some players need. So this one is probably, I think it's the first one, isn't it? So I think that's why we're all a bit sad.
I am. I'm sad.
Because this is the first Arsenal youth watch where we've actually turned around and gone, right now, I don't think it's your time, but a couple of more years, give us another ring, and maybe we can sort of accommodate you. So we feel bad because we love the youth at Arsenal, and we all want them to. Even if they don't come at Arsenal, we still want them to smash it at another club. So John Jules, not your time right now. On that,
I tried, John. I tried.
And sorry, mate, we've gone 7 minutes over. But it just means we had 7 minutes more fun. I'd like to thank everyone on the panel tonight. I'd also like to put a little thank you out to everyone who's given me their time, giving the boys their time when we're doing the meetings. The James Rose, the Maries, the Adam Brandons, Simon, Solis, Linus, Louis, the boys from Tottenham TV, all of you. I'd like to thank you because you've given me an opportunity. You've given us an opportunity when the channel was on nothing. It's still on nothing, but 100% this channel is going to absolutely smash it. And I'm not worried about that. Just had an interview today. I can reveal. Just had an interview today with the former Angolan national manager. We spoke about the prospects coming through there, African football, and why some of the youth players aren't coming through into Europe afterwards. Great interview. I've got many more of them. We're going to do a special week on African players and the development of that continent. So we've got loads of stuff coming through. We're speaking to agents, managers, scouts, experts, the lot. I'd like to thank the panel tonight. First of all, I'm going to thank Chris Davison for coming down on our debut show. Thank you very much, Chris.
No worries. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. I'd like to thank Steve Kay, our chief scout.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you.
Jerome, have you found the new Yusuf Benin yet?
Still looking. The search continues.
The search continues.
It's growing as we speak.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Jerome Marks. Thank you very much, Jerome.
Cheers, boys. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
And I'd like to thank the chef. Thank you very much, chef.
Like, subscribe.
Cheers,
and subscribe.
Everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe to KS1 TV. We are out. Join us next week. Don't forget, we've got the Dispute Show, we've got the Transfer Exchange Show, and we've got Football POV. There's plenty more coming. Check it out. Peace out. Stay safe. Don't forget to wash your hands.